This is the 6th talk, part 2, in the series of lectures on the central nervous system, periphery nervous system, and waters they live in. Recording in nature, and there's lots of aeroplanes and things have suddenly started flying by, so you may hear those. And also there's anatomy pictures. It's good to view these on my website where there's a better representation of them. So we're looking at the choroid plexus and the ventricles and the breath in the ventricles and the ventilation in the ventricles. So this whole area is breathing. Everything, the whole body, everywhere is breathing. The ventricles are breathing. As they breathe in, oxygen, glucose and minerals coming into the ventricles through the choroid plexus, breathing out carbon dioxide, toxins, water, breathing out back into the choroid plexus. So it's all based in water, so water, glucose, oxygen, minerals breathing into the ventricles, water, carbon dioxide, toxins leaving back into the ventricle, into the choroid plexus. So here we have the ependymal cells, which will go around all of the capillaries and make a complete seal around these capillaries. So it makes a bag, a many-folded bag. There's a soup of nutriments, oxygen, carbon dioxide, toxins, all mixed together in here. From the heart, we have the blood flow from the heart, gets smaller and smaller till it becomes these little capillaries. So it's coming from the heart, the oxygen, the glucose, the minerals into this soup, and then the venous blood taking carbon dioxide, water, toxins off back to the heart. So the capillaries are of the heart. The ependymal cells, the choroid plexus is more the lungs, they're breathing in, out, in, out. The ventricles breathing. So it's like the heart and lungs. This is connecting to the heart, coming from the heart, going back to the heart. It's ventilating through the blood, it's receiving or bringing oxygen, nutriments, taking back carbon dioxide, waste, all based in water. And as we looked in the 4th talk, in the body, blood circles the body, then the arterial blood, then the venous blood coming back to the heart is not travelling as fast as the arterial blood, so it can't bring back so much fluid to the heart as the arterial blood takes away, and then the lymph brings back all the fluid, the rest remaining fluid. It's 4 times in volume, there's 4 times as much blood as venous, 4 times as much lymph as venous blood, but the venous blood brings back more because it's travelling faster than lymph. So we have the same situation here. Arterial blood is moving faster, venous blood is moving more slowly. So what you have is a surplus of water moving back. The venous blood will take all of the toxins away. The arterial blood will bring everything, and you end up with this surplus of fluid, moving away water, glucose, minerals. There's an extra, because there's no lymph to take the extra fluid. This fulfills the body of lymph. So you have this migration from the ventricles travelling down. This extra fluid is migrating back to the heart. It's come from the heart, it's migrating back to the heart. Choroid plexus, ventricles, breathing, it's the heart and lungs. You can't be aware of the heart for too long without becoming aware of the breath. You can't become aware of the breath for too long without becoming aware of the heart, intrinsically connected together. So this fluid, the water, the minerals, glucose, oxygen, is making its way off to find its way back to the heart, but it's still nutrition. It's still oxygen, glucose, minerals. It hasn't been used yet. And this becomes used by the nerves. It becomes the food for the nerves. It travels off with the rest of the cranial fluid or waters down the nerves, and it's used. The oxygen is used in the nerves, the glucose is used in the nerves, the sodium is used in the nerves, the minerals are used in the nerves. And then the waters find their way out of the nerves. Either they're coming out the end of the nerve or they're coming out the sides of the nerves. They're picked up by the lymph and slowly come back to the heart. So it starts at the heart, comes to the choroid plexus, nutriments, oxygen coming in, and water coming into the ventricles, breathing, carbon dioxide, toxins leaving the ventricles back into the soup of the choroid plexus, the venous blood bringing the toxins, bringing the waste material back to the heart. But as there's no lymph, there's more travelling out through the ventricles. This migrates down, becomes the food for the nerves, comes out of the nerves once it's used, into the lymph, returning to the heart. So we have the heart and the lungs. Cerebrum, breathing, it doesn't have any nerves coming off from it, so again we have the same thing. We have the arterial blood coming into the cerebrum, into the capillaries, and then this 400-mile long filter producing this beautiful environment. Then the venous blood leaving back to the heart, taking the toxins, taking carbon dioxide back to the heart. But there's no lymph. There's no lymph to take this extra body that the venous blood can't take because it's going slower. In the body we have the lymph, no lymph there. So we end up with this migrating water. So we have the cerebrum breathing, the lungs, the breath, the blood coming, the heart, blood leaving back to the heart. And then you have this migrating fluid, kind of a free-form lymph, very pure lymph. It's still 99% water. The light, the energies, the higher self our being, our energies, the different energies through us, the earth energies, all of these communications. They don't mind if it's glucose and oxygen, or if it's carbon dioxide and waste materials. They don't differentiate, they shine through it. It's not good and bad, one works and the other doesn't. Still 99% water, the light in all its colours and shades, intelligences and different levels, shines through the water. So we have this migrating water. Some comes down around the spinal cord and around the brainstem and out through the cranial nerves and out through the periphery nerves and back to the heart. Some travels inwardly, arrives in the lateral ventricles, down into the third ventricle, down into the fourth ventricle, down inside the spinal cord. And as it arrives in the lateral ventricles, this whole inner face of the lateral ventricles, this choroid plexus, this whole upper surface of the third ventricle is choroid plexus. Choroid plexus comes down through these tubes, choroid plexus across here. This is a section through the thalamus, but it follows. Choroid plexus is on the surface of the thalamus all the way. So if it was 3D, it would follow that horn all the way around. Choroid plexus on the surface. So we've got the cerebrum here, migrating 99% waters. The surface of the ventricles is the ependymal cells, but without the close connectors, they're separate. The water can just flow in, just flows in, and is filtered by the choroid plexus. Carbon dioxide is taken away, waste materials taken away. It may also have oxygen and glucose still in it. Just flows in, or whatever's in it flows in. But carbon dioxide, the toxins taken back into the choroid plexus, the venous blood back to the heart's breath, heart and lungs. Comes down into the third ventricle. Just talking and looking at these pictures, you start feeling the quietness of this area, this deep serenity when you drop into this fluid. It has a deeply serene and meditative quality. Dropping into the third ventricle, there's this stillness. Now I'm talking of rivers of fluid and migrating fluids. They're moving very, very slowly. The arterial blood moves quickly, the venous blood moves slower, the lymph and the migrating cranial fluid move very, very slowly. So there's this stillness, there's a quietness. It drops down into the fourth ventricle. We've got the choroid plexus here as well, filtering, giving oxygen. It can spread out around here. There's places it can come out, to vents it can come out, but it also drops down here. And this stays as food, this stays as oxygen. Still 99% water. It stays that same percentage, 99% water, glucose, oxygen, with these different mixes. Stays the same. Then at the cerebellum, at the back, breathing, like the lower brain. It's also receiving the waters from the capillaries, venous blood, taking back carbon dioxide, taking back waste material, but it can't take it all back. Can't take back as much because it's moving more slowly. So we have this migrating fluid coming out the surface of the cerebellum and inwardly. In through the back of the fourth ventricle. And at the bottom of the fourth ventricle here we have the choroid plexus. So as it drops with gravity and this well travelling down, it's filtered by the choroid plexus. So by the time it's leaving and coming down here, again, oxygen, water, glucose and minerals, the carbon dioxide, the waste materials have been taken back by the choroid plexus. And the venous blood in the choroid plexus are making it back to the heart. So it all connects to the heart. So we have the breath. And then we have the oxygen coming from the heart and the waste and carbon dioxide going back to the heart. And that all takes this trip off down through the spine and out through the nerves. The fluid coming around the outside and down, that is just lymph. But the light, the energies, the communication is very bright. Around the outside it's got very bright energy. The light still shines through it. It doesn't care if it's carbon dioxide and waste material. It doesn't care. The light shines through water. So this round the outside generally has a much brighter light to it. And this inner journey in the middle is generally a bit darker, very still in the middle, very quiet, precious energy. On its own, if you just focus where they are, there's a darkness, but then you also get the light coming in from the cerebrum through the lateral ventricle. So you just get this very quiet, precious, tranquil, empty space in these central caves. And it travels through there and travels down, and the water has a memory. You know, things are happening on a physical level. There's all of the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the glucose. But there's a whole energetic thing happening too. So the water, not only do these lights, our own internal energies, our own internal intelligences, the subtle realms, the higher self, the water remembers these. There's a memory in water. And this travels down and takes that memory with it. So there's the glucose, there's the oxygen as food for the nerves. There's also the memory as a communication of where it's been, travelling down and out through the nerves. As a food, as a memory, as a communication. So you have the food, you have the oxygen, but you also have the light, you have the memory of where it's been, the different levels of consciousness. These are all different levels of awareness, different vibrations. Water remembers this very precious place of meditation, of creation in the middle. It comes down, spreads out through the nerves, goes off into the body, goes out into the lymph, travels back through the lymph, back to the heart. And then the heart is connected to the lungs, and the lungs are breathing, that's connected to the outside. Oxygen, breath, carbon dioxide, oxygen in the breath, carbon dioxide in the breath. It's the same thing, but to outside of ourselves. So you have the breath in the lungs, which has got a connection outside, so it can expand. in all directions. But the cells, they don't have a connection to the outside, so if they expand sideways, they shrink top to bottom. So there's this cellular breath, which is different. And then so they breathe in that way. And instead of the oxygen and carbon dioxide being passed in the air, the oxygen and carbon dioxide are moving in the waters. Body breathes the water. We breathe the water and the cells breathe. Got the lungs, the breath, the heart. Comes to the choroid plexus. Ventricles, the lungs. Choroid plexus, or the skin of the choroid plexus, the lungs. Capillaries within it, the heart. Oxygen, glucose, minerals, carbon dioxide going back to the heart, going to the lungs, going out. So this continual breath and heart movement, irrigation and ventilation going on. And in the body, it's in water. The breath is in water. So it all breathes, all the cells breathe. Okay, good. So closing your eyes, feeling the cerebrum breathing, feeling the cerebellum breathing, the brainstem breathing, and the ventricles breathing. Down into the spinal cord and the whole spine is also breathing. And you've got fluids, water travelling down around the outside. You may feel this is a much brighter light to it. The energies around the outside, or the waters around the outside, but they are carrying toxins, they are carrying carbon dioxide, but a very bright light to them. And then this travels off down the nerves as elimination. It's clearing away. But the light travels through it. Just because it's elimination doesn't mean light doesn't travel through the water. Light utilizes this really good, and this travels off down through the nerves. Then in the center, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, breathing, cerebellum coming down around the outside again, this brighter energy travelling down and out through the nerves, and fluid travelling down and out through the nerves, but also travelling inwardly to this very quiet place, the ventricles in the middle. So you have the cerebellum, cerebrum breathing, and this migrating fluid flowing in, and as it flows in, it's filtered in the choroid plexus. Any toxins, any carbon dioxide taken out, and you end up with this very pure, unused fluid, very quiet, softly moving down, with the memory as it travels through the natural ventricles, the memory of it travelling through the third ventricle, the memory of it travelling through the fourth ventricle, and the memory of it travelling through the spine. Water has a memory, so the nutriments and oxygen travel off in the water. The memory and quality of the water travels in the water. It spreads off down through the nerves as oxygen, as water. Water is not a small part of it, it travels down as water. And glucose and minerals, and feeds the nerves, and the water is a conduit for the energies. You may notice it as the nerves become more and more clear. There's quite a bright energy to these nerves as it travels off down through the nerves, through the arms, through the legs, through the body. And then this expands out through the nerves and becomes picked up by the lymph, and it carries that whole memory. The water carries that memory, and the lymph takes this back to the heart and has its own memory, and then it's received back into the heart, and the whole operation starts again. So choroid plexus, ventricles, very much heart and lungs. Whole body, heart and lungs. Okay.